Good evening and welcome to SportsZone. We are bringing you some crazy news that happened earlier this morning. The Dallas Mavericks have officially fired Nico Harrison. At long last, the fire Nico chance, I guess, worked in Dallas. So joining me to talk about it, Jay Delmires and Omar Najm. Guys, this is obviously the biggest news of the day, but the biggest news of the Mavs season so far. It's been a rough one to get it going. It's just been everything that you hoped the Mavs team would be. They just haven't been so far. So we know all the backlash. The man that traded Luka Doncic is officially gone. So Omar, what's your first reaction?
It's not it's kind of expected. And actually, I am surprised that it was this early in the season. I thought it was going to be later down the line, but it needed to happen. Every time you go to a Mavs game, all you hear is fire Nico, right? And it's just, at some point, it looked like it was going to get better, and it did not. It was still on TV. You could still hear fire Nico, and the Mavs had to do it, or it was just going to be a constant thing throughout the season, and I bet it could possibly hurt the players' play sometimes. You're not hearing positivity from the fans. It's feeling like an away game, So I kind of expected it.
Yeah, definitely. As you said, some of the Mavs personnel were saying that they were preferring to play on the road than at home because it was becoming a distraction. This fire Nico, everything, and it's just been wild. Obviously, we'll talk a little bit more about the trade, reflect, 9 months later. But J-Del, what is your reaction to Nico being gone, and do you think this was the right move at this time?
Yeah, I was shocked as well that it happened this early, and a lot of fans are celebrating, and I don't think he should have been, crucified for that because he really was hopeful that Anthony Davis would bring on the defense. So that was where his heart was, thinking that Anthony Davis would just go all out with all the blocks and rebounds, but it's just not what is happening right now, and that's the consequences of making such, controversial of a trade. Like, Luka was so beloved in the Dallas community, so it's no surprise that Nico was fired.
Yeah, and that's the case, unfortunately, though, because Anthony Davis is in street clothes. I mean, he's missed the majority of your games this season. It's just the reality that we knew when you traded for Anthony Davis. He is injury prone. That's just something that has always been a plague for him. And then the Mavs, they took on the Bucks, and this was just kind of, I think, the last straw. It wasn't necessarily a bad game. They were in it. It ends up being a rough loss, but you were right here. And once again, defense, it didn't work. And guys, through this game, Cooper Flagg showed some flashes, but do you think that this game was really the kind of last straw for Nico Harrison?
Well, you go ahead.
Yes, definitely. I think that, both the Bucks and the Mavs have defensive holes. They could really up it up with an addition of some defensive players. I know that the Bucks traded Drew, and that was, really heartbreaking for the team because now, even though Giannis is scoring 60 points, 50 points, they're still losing some of these games. So they kind of have that similarity with the Mavs, and I think they really need to add defense. That's what the new GM needs to focus on. And I don't know if AD is, going to be the most reliable in terms of that. Like, he is kind of a veteran player, and even though he's great offensively, they just need someone that will specialize in, like I said, rebounds and blocks. What do you think, Omar?
Yeah, Cooper Flagg probably played his best game of the season so far, scoring 26 points. But again, it wasn't a high scoring game. But 116, 114, if you're a team that's, trying to prove that your defense wins championships, usually you want to hold an NBA team under 100 points. And the Mavs did not do that. And unfortunately, yes, AD is out, but if you're going to, go on defense, you got to stop them. And Giannis scored 30 points. I mean, that's what Giannis does. It's typical. But for the Mavs, also Klay is having a really tough year so far. And it's hard for Cooper Flagg because Cooper Flagg should not be playing the point guard. He has to play mostly point guard, and he is a power forward type player, small forward, and unfortunately for them, that's why they're losing right now.
Yeah, and also part of it was this play right here. Very controversial as Cooper Flagg was really just grabbed there by the jersey, fell down, easy transition bucket for Kyle Kuzma, and then PJ Washington, one last shot to try to tie the game, misses a free throw, misses this one sort of intentionally, and that's all she wrote. 116-114, the Bucks take the win. Mavs fall to 3-8, and they are just right near the bottom of the Western Conference, only ahead of the Pelicans. But it's just been, I feel like this game was kind of the epitome of everything. Just a frustrating loss there at the end. Cooper Flagg, like you guys said, was incredible. Brandon Williams had a good game. Klay Thompson, though, as you mentioned, Omar, has not really been what Mavs fans expected him to be this season whatsoever. Last year, he wasn't, prime Klay Thompson. We knew that when you signed him, but his production fell off mightily so far this season. Basically, his numbers cut in half. 14-7 on points, and then the three-point percentage has just been really poor for his standards. Jadel, what do you think is wrong with Klay Thompson? Do you think he can recapture this, or do you think maybe he might be on his way out of Dallas?
Yeah, we have to face the reality that through and through, Klay Thompson was and will always be a warrior. I know that might hurt some Dallas fans that might want him there, but he's not a great, fit for the team. He's an amazing player, and even though he's a veteran, I know he still has a lot of years left, but, he's great, but this team does not work for his offensive style play, and you basically need Draymond Green to, for him to shine or something like that. So if you arrange a team around him, which is not going to happen because they want a young team of, new people, kind of like Cooper Flagg, who almost scored a double-double. Shout out to him. But yeah, I think he might be on his way out. He has his 4 rings, got his 4 rings at least.
Yeah, he'll always have that. And it's interesting for Klay because you brought him in as someone that can be that championship piece, someone that can take you over the top. And he signed, over teams like the Lakers to play with Luka Doncic. And then kind of ironic for him, Luka Doncic gets traded to the Lakers. And I hate to, keep bringing it back to this point, but what Luka's done in LA is incredible. He's been amazing this season. And meanwhile, the Mavs are struggling. Omar, what have you seen from Luka Doncic, and how does this just continue to make this trade look worse and worse?
Oh, he is just playing MVP type caliber basketball. He's playing with guys that are not that. They're solid players, but he's making the Lakers look good, They're Jake LaRavia. He's playing with Jackson Hayes. He's playing with guys that are not, almost basically how the Mavs got to the Western Conference Final in the past. But he's dropping 40, 45 points, averaging almost 40 points per game. And Luka is making Nico look like a fool for trading him. And for Mavs fans, it hurts, They might not be good for another 3 or 4, 5 years if Cooper Flagg is not dropping points. So for Luka Doncic, he is just star player. I will not be surprised if he wins MVP this season.
Yeah, he's been incredible, and that's, I think, a perfect way to say it. He's looked like the MVP of the league, and I think the Mavs finally realized, Patrick Dumont sort of admitting, we made a mistake here. And I think he ultimately admitted that by firing Nico Harrison. So it's, the end of an era in terms of now Luka and Nico are gone. The scene outside the AAC, sunny LA, Luka looking down on really a disaster here at Victory Plaza and in Dallas. It's just been, I don't even know quite how to describe it. It's been a surreal feeling. Obviously, when this trade happened, it was shocking. But as we've gotten, now 9 months later, it's hard to feel better about it. Cooper Flagg, I think, is kind of that new hope. I think his performance last night was something that you can build upon. But in terms of Anthony Davis, just still unable to get healthy. Lakers are surging, Mavs are struggling. Jadel, where does Dallas go from here?
Oh, I would agree with what you said, that it would take them a few years. This is not their season, maybe with a new GM, but also Luka felt extremely disrespected when he wasn't even, he wasn't even, informed of this decision.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's what hurt the most. They didn't even sit him down to tell him the reason for the trade or what they're thinking about it. He didn't even have that voice, despite being so instrumental in, pushing Dallas to the top. Luka's influence is absolutely crazy. I have a nephew named Luka Maverick. So
Really?
yes, I do.
Wow.
I also have, yeah. So that's definitely Luka's influence on Dallas, and you can't just throw that away, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's irreplaceable. And we talked about Cooper Flagg. I believe that he will get to that point. Eventually, he will continue to develop. But you just can't replace Luka Magic just like that. It can't be done. And it's just really tough. Omar, looking at this team, where do you think the Mavs go next? And do you think there's any hope for the season once Kyrie Irving gets back, Anthony Davis hopefully gets healthy?
Honestly, I'm not sure. You know, they're already sitting at the bottom of the standings in the Western Conference. They're going to have to make some moves possibly. Now, if they really want to blow it up, I mean, trade AD, trade Kyrie, and rebuild all the way, because they got to try to get the fan base back too, right? I mean, Patrick Dumont saying that the trade was a mistake. How do you think Anthony Davis feels now? So, I mean, it's all chaos.
Yeah, it's crazy, and obviously a long season ahead, but it's something we'll continue to monitor. But Nico Harrison officially done in Dallas. Now we're going to move on and talk some college football and playoff preview.
TRIO is a federally funded grant program. It was funded in the 60s, and it supports student success and student retention. So we have a lounge, computer lab, free printing for our students. We also provide one-on-one advising services for our students, as well as career exploration and prep. Students who are eligible for TRIO include those who are first-gen, low income, or have a disability. They just have to meet one of those three. There are many benefits to being in TRIO. Some of the general ones are the services we provide. The other benefits include creating a sense of community, a sense of belonging, and giving a safe space for students to come. Students can apply for a program by either coming in person and scanning a QR code, or they can also visit our webpage that has a direct link to our online application. And students need to know that we are here to help.
Welcome back to SportsZone. I'm joined by Josh Ortega and Colby Platt. And guys, we're going to talk some college football playoff projection. It's crazy. We're already in November, just about a month left in the regular season, and things are really starting to heat up. Today, the College Football Playoff Committee released their second college football playoff rankings, and we're just going to break it down. So Josh, looking at the rankings so far, what sticks out to you the most?
I think the biggest thing is obviously getting Texas back inside the top 10. They were on the bubble last week at 11, so looking into it really good. They got a big matchup versus Georgia this week in Athens. USF up there at 12, taking over that Memphis spot, obviously because Memphis lost last week. And then Miami will represent the ACC instead of Georgia Tech, who has a better record than them right now. That's kind of the surprise thing. Obviously, BYU falling out with the loss at Texas Tech this week in Lubbock, where they got absolutely smacked. And then Oklahoma, being that they're that 12th team ranked for the committee, will be out as well because of the G5 spot. So not the worst list in the world. Definitely kind of sticking to the same theme here. I think the top 4 is fine. I think you get into even going inside the top 10. I think that you could kind of shift some people around. Oregon at 8 is still kind of low for me. I think this team is a lot better, but overall, not the worst list in the world by any means.
Yeah, just to talk through the whole thing real fast. Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, Alabama, Georgia, Texas Tech, Ole Miss, Oregon, Notre Dame, Texas, and then this is where it gets sort of interesting. At 11, Oklahoma is ranked. However, Miami would take that spot for the projected winner of the ACC. Then at 12, it's BYU, but of course, South Florida would take that as the final G5 spot. So Colby, looking at that, do you think that this is about right? Anything sticks out to you the most?
I mean, so far it's right, with the current projections, obviously. I think we'll just see a lot of movement with the 12th spot, whoever wins the G5, one of the G5 conferences, most likely coming from the American. But Other than that, I think the 11 seed will change. I think Miami won't win the ACC. You'll probably either see Georgia Tech or Virginia right there. But as for the rest of the top 10, it really just comes down to who wins their games, who comes up clutch. If Notre Dame loses at Pitt this week, you could see them fall out. I do think inside the top 10, I'd say the top 8 is pretty standard. It's pretty locked in. But as for like the 9 through the 12 seed, you can see a lot of movement within the final weeks.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting looking at that top 8 and even the top 4. Josh, do you think that that's kind of set, or could you see some of that moving around?
I mean, you can kind of argue whether you want to put A&M or Indiana at 2 and 3, Alabama and Georgia between 4 and 5. So you can argue for both of those things, but I think they're pretty set. We're obviously going to see the Buckeyes at 1 for probably the rest of the season. So I think that's kind of perfect where it's at. I think Indiana, even though with the win at Penn State, which many people argue is like, oh, you're playing a team that has an interim head coach for 3 weeks and doesn't have their starting quarterback, I still think they're 2. I think that game kind of helped them solidify that second spot.
Yeah, for sure. And then looking at it, Colby, any teams you see that you think maybe are a little bit too high, you think can maybe fall out?
Definitely Notre Dame and Texas stick out to me.
Yeah.
I feel like if Texas wins out, you'll see them remain in the top 10. Again, Notre Dame, if all these teams win out, you'll see all of them remain. I do think the only movement you will see in the top 4 is coming with conference championships. Obviously, right now, these are the top 2 conference championships with Ohio State and Indiana in the Big 12 and A&M and Alabama in the SEC. So the only way you see movement is if Indiana beats Ohio State, maybe Alabama beats A&M, but that is the only way you'll see movement in this top 4. As for the rest of the bracket, it all just depends on winning your games, coming out on top, and for the last 2 conference champions coming from the ACC and the Big 12 too with Texas Tech, but I think they have that on lock, and then obviously the American with South Florida. You'll see just a lot of movement. So it's set right now, and it's just the current predictions, but we could still see a lot of movement.
Yeah, the Big Ten and the SEC certainly king of these rankings so far, and this is a game that I wanted to talk about because Texas, Vanderbilt, this was a huge one because basically for Texas, I think if you lose this game, it's all over. You're completely out, and Texas has been in this case for a couple weeks now where you have to win. It's not, you don't have any more margin for error. I still think 10 is a little bit high for them. I think that just the amount of games throughout the season where it's just been really just hanging on by a thread. This one I think was their best performance probably of the year, and they needed it at this time. Colby, do you think Texas is ranked appropriately, or do you think that there might be some movement with them?
I think there will be definitely some movement. I feel like it's a little bit of SEC bias a little bit. They're not winning their games by like blowouts. Because if they were, then this ranking would be justified.
Absolutely.
They're barely winning. They've gone into 2 overtime games to unranked teams in the SEC. They almost blew the lead against Vanderbilt in this game, but they're barely edging out these teams. So this ranking, again, I agree with you, is a little high. But if they beat Georgia, that's a huge statement.
Yeah. Yes.
Now, I'm not saying they will because it's highly unlikely going into Athens and beating a ranked 5 Bulldogs. But if they do, that's a statement win. That's where you solidify this is why we should be ranked in the top 10. So it should be a good weekend in college football.
Yeah, certainly. I think that's really the headliner. Josh, what do you expect to see from that Georgia-Texas game?
I think it's going to be interesting because you see Georgia coming into this game against Mississippi State. They finally mauled a team.
Yes.
They mauled Mississippi State. And that was one of the teams that Texas took into OT. They won because the backup came in and threw a phenomenal touchdown in the end zone for Texas to win that game. One of those back-to-back overtime wins for the Longhorns. It's going to be interesting because you're coming off the bye. You had a week to prep. How sharp is Arch going to be, right? That's the biggest thing. If you can get Arch to be consistent, be very good on offense, how good is he going to be? Right? How healthy is this offensive line going to be? How is that going to be kind of together? Overall, this is a Georgia team that's really good. They're hard to kill. They are one of the favorites in the SEC for the SEC championship. So it's going to be really tough for this Texas team to walk into Athens and win. When coming out of Red River, I said if they got to 9-2, they would be in a really good spot for the playoffs. This is going to be a lot harder to get to 9-2 through Georgia, especially with Texas A&M to end the season as well.
Yes, certainly a huge matchup for both teams. Texas, though, really, really needs this one. It's going to be tough, but it's going to be interesting to watch. And then just to sort of wrap up the top 12, I want to talk about that G5 spot. Obviously, right now it's South Florida, but we could see some movement. UNT in that conversation, James Madison, maybe Tulane. Who do you think, I'll ask you, Josh, who do you think takes this spot?
It's so hard right now. I think it might lean to USF here, but I do think that if UNT plays USF in the American Championship game, that might flip and UNT might get in there. But if we're going to see it right now, it's probably going to be USF. I don't think JMU gets in. If JMU gets in, this whole thing is rigged. All right, like this whole thing is rigged.
Yeah, I agree with that. Colby, with this 12 spot, it's so crucial. And I mean, we talked about it throughout the season. UNT even being in this conversation is really, incredible. Who do you think takes this spot?
Right now, obviously South Florida has the edge, but it should be whoever wins the American Conference. James Madison's one loss is to a Power 4 school. The rest of them is just nobody, Sun Belt, trash. I don't understand why the hype is all around JMU. I don't understand why they're even talked about getting this final spot in the playoffs. The final spot should come from the American, and I do think North Texas has a legitimate chance. I mean, South Florida has struggled against Navy historically. So if Navy beats South Florida this weekend, that's a second conference loss, and I feel like in the American, once you get a second conference loss, you're out of the picture. Two teams from the American will win out, and those will be the two in the championship, and whoever wins that game should get this final spot. If not, college football's dead.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think that the American Conference absolutely deserves that spot. They've been excellent all year long. And then for UNT, we got to talk about them. Obviously, a huge matchup against UAB coming up this Saturday. It's step one. You need to win out, and this is the first one. Josh, what do you look for UNT against in this game in Birmingham?
Yeah, with UAB, they're not one of the best teams in the American, but their offense runs through their quarterback and wide receiver, Iverson Hooks. That's really where they get you here. They are very good passing the football. Not great running the football, which is really good for UNT, but they give the most amount of sacks away to the quarterback position in the American. So 24 sacks, tied for first amount in total in the American. So that's something that I think that with this defensive line we've talked about kind of all year, it is the pass rush of it.
Yes.
So you can easily see this defensive line feast, and obviously the takeaways. That's a big thing. We are obviously top of the nation in takeaways. That's a big thing they're going to need. But really the biggest thing is playing a complete game.
Yes.
We haven't seen this team play a complete game on the road. Charlotte was a shootout. Western Michigan earlier in the year was kind of a second half game for sure. You want this team to play a complete game on the road.
Yeah, as you said, it's just been a little bit different, the road versus at home. UNT has shown dominance at home. On the road, like you said, they just haven't been complete games. There's been some shakiness, and it's just been, I think this is one where you need to not just win this, but really make a statement. Colby, do you think they can make that statement?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you nailed it. I mean, away games, you just don't know with North Texas. They can either come out and play like they do at home, or they can come out and play like they don't deserve anything that they've gotten so far. So I feel like with this away game, North Texas absolutely definitely needs to win out if they want to still contend for this final spot in the CFP. And I do think they really can. I feel like out of everyone who's in contention for this final spot, North Texas has the easiest schedule from here on out with UAB, Rice, and then Temple. So if they win out, that's definitely it, but we got to win these road games.
Yep, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be an excellent game for UNT. They received 55 AP votes this week, most they've received all year, and they're currently sitting at number 28. Could we see them ranked after next week? It remains to be seen, but it's definitely going to be exciting to continue to watch UNT and the rest of the college football landscape. But we're going to move on and talk some NFL and some early playoff predictions for them as well.
Has this ever happened to you?
My bike is gone.
Stolen bikes are an epidemic sweeping college campuses across America.
What am I supposed to do?
It's quite simple. The We Mean Green Fund has partnered with the UNT Police Department to offer free bike locks to any UNT student with a bike. Just show up with your bike in tow and ask.
Now I'll never lose my bike ever again.
Enough worrying. Get your bike lock today.
Welcome back to SportsZone. I'm your host, Steven Lucero, and we are just past the halfway point in the NFL season. And I mean, we got to talk some early playoff picture. It's been exciting, and joining me to talk about it, Jay Delmires and Mauricio Garcia. Guys, For the NFL, it's been, I'd say, a weird season. If you guys know what I mean. You look at the standings, and we'll get to it in just a moment, but it just feels like you've had a lot of good teams this year, but no great teams. And then you've seen some surprises, some, teams overperforming, underperforming. I feel like we've seen it all. So, Mauricio, what have you seen from the NFL so far, and who are some of your favorites going into the potential playoff push?
It's been the most exciting season I've seen in a while, with the way that teams have been able to overperform from their standards, and then teams underperforming. As we see in the playoff picture, is just how are these teams here? You have the Patriots being ranked 3rd right now. You have Jacksonville being ranked 7th. The Pittsburgh Steelers being ranked 4th in the AFC is just wild to me. But then you go into the NFC, you see the teams that are like, oh, they're regular. These are teams that you expect. And then you see the Bears.
Yes.
You see the Bears just in
Bears.
there. It's just so how? So it's been the greatest season I've seen in a while for me. But Jadel, how do you expect this season to go on?
Oh, absolutely. I was surprised. There's no surprise that the Eagles would be at the very top of, the NFC, but the Seahawks, anyone else surprised? And, the Colts, everyone is saying that, all the haters at least, every hater is saying that they've had a very easy schedule. And what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, so I want to go down the AFC playoff picture real fast. First, before, here it is, but this feels like something out of 2013. It's giving me nostalgia.
Yes.
Colts at 1, number 2 Broncos, 3 Patriots, 4 Steelers, 5 Chargers, 6 Bills, and 7 Jaguars. Guys, truly, those top 4, Colts, Broncos, Patriots, Steelers, I'm thinking Big Ben, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and Andrew Luck. But no, it's Daniel Jones, Bo Nix, Drake May, and Aaron Rodgers. It's been wild what we've seen in the AFC, and it's truly incredibly impressive overall. And I'll just ask you, Mauricio, it's wild looking at this playoff picture, but who do you think of these teams is really a contender, and who do you think is maybe just a pretender?
For me right now, what is it? A pretender, I think I could be it could be the Colts right now. If you've seen the last game, Daniel Jones has probably had the worst performance we've seen out of him this whole season. In Atlanta, or against Atlanta over there in London, but with Jonathan Taylor being able to carry that team over, what is it? He's having I would say an MVP performance caliber season right now. 3 touchdowns, 244 yards. Jonathan Taylor is really carrying this Colts offense right now. And Stephen, what else do you see from this, kind of AFC?
Yeah, it's certainly fair. The Colts have been very impressive. Jonathan Taylor has just been incredible. I'm glad that I didn't have to play him in fantasy this week. I'll say that. But then looking at the wild card, we talked Chargers, the Bills at 6, Jaguars at 7, and a notable team that's not there,
The Chiefs.
Kansas City Chiefs. And this is a team that's been hailed, obviously, the Chiefs. I heard someone say they were Super Bowl favorites just a couple weeks ago. I'm like, guys, they're not even in the playoff picture. So I want to walk that back. Jadel, what have you seen from some of the teams that aren't on this ranking?
Oh, as far as any teams that do have a chance, would you say that, the Carolina Panthers would be, on the running?
Yeah, no, the Panthers right now, with Bryce Young being able to take the handle of the Panthers, beating the Packers the week before this week, but then losing to the Saints, it's one of those things. Their offense does look pretty solid. Rico Dowdle, didn't get to re-sign him from the Cowboys, is able to carry that offense as well. And the wide receiver core with the young McMillan is really something that the Panthers needed this season, being able to have a confident Bryce Young this season. What else could you say from the Panthers, being able to do that? Jadel, what could you see from the AFC as well,
Yeah, I think the Colts have been great because, like you said, of Jonathan Taylor. And people are saying that if he doesn't win MVP this season, they might as well, and if they give it to a QB, they might as well rename the award MVQB, because that's how good Jonathan Taylor is. They're saying that, if he continue with his stats, he is, on the running to break Adrian Peterson's record in 2012, which is 2,097 rushing yards and 13 total touchdown in the whole season. So, he could very easily surpass that and win MVP. unless they decide to give it to another QB, which I really hope they don't.
Yeah, the MVP race is wide open, and Jonathan Taylor is firmly in the running based on his performance. But moving over to the NFC, I want to talk about this one. It feels maybe a little bit more normal in comparison, just looking down the list. Number one, the Eagles, Seahawks, Lions, and Bucks, and then the Rams, Bears, as you mentioned, and Packers. So there's quite a bit of movement, especially after that Eagles game. They moved up to 1. The Packers with that tie, and the Cowboys, they're all the way down to 7. Mauricio, what are you seeing from this NFC side of the playoff picture?
I mean, with the Seahawks, I mean, for me, it was kind of surprising. I mean, like, when you lose DK Metcalf, you lose, and Tyler Lockett in the same offseason, that's going to be, sort of a little bit problems. But, I mean, come on now. You have the GOAT JSN right here, 1,000 receiving yards, 5 touchdowns. I mean, he's averaging almost 100 yards per game. I mean, it's so crazy to me, like, to see JSN take this huge breakout season from how he was able to just, like be behind DK and, kind of learn from him, but also is just, like, being able to, just break out with Sam Darnold as, Heim right now. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. And Jackson Smith-Njigba has been incredible, leading the league in receiving yards. I was able to pick him up on my fantasy team early in the year off of the waiver wire. Like, guys, this is what he was able to do. And like you talked about, DK Metcalf at the trade to the Steelers, you lose Tyler Lockett, but JSN has stepped up and been incredible. The Seahawks were number 1 on Stephen A's, top 5 A-list. And it's like, it's weird to see, but what Seattle's done this season has been pretty impressive, and they had pretty dominant showing last week against a team that the Cowboys couldn't handle. So looking at the rest of the NFC, though, what are you seeing, J-Del, from the division leaders and then some of those wild card spots?
The AFC or the NFC or either?
The NFC, yeah.
Oh, okay. So I would say for the NFC, definitely the Seahawks, and they have it figured out. I think they have a very strong core with their QB, Sam Darnold, and with the string finish, they definitely are on the running to take the first spot. But, I'm very biased. I have Jalen Hurts as my, first fantasy pick, so.
I mean, with what you're talking about the Seahawks, I mean, with the dominant performance that they put on, I mean, just almost shut out the Cardinals that Cowboys going to beat. But I mean, and also with the piece that they took away from the Cowboys as well. DeMarcus Lawrence, 2 turnovers and 2 touchdowns in the same game. I mean, that's a performance we can't not overlook, because that defense is looking pretty scary right now if you're going to go against them, which could cause problems. I mean, playoffs might have to go down to Seattle again. I mean, but I mean, with the Buccaneers, another team I could look at is the Buccaneers. I mean, that's another team that's going to be kind of questionable for me, taking heavy hits. Emeka Egbuka is taking on that heavy load. I mean, he is outshining, as a rookie in his rookie year. But, I mean, just with the injuries to Bucky Irving and then also Chris Godwin, Mike Evans as well, those are injuries that are going to catch up to you, and specifically in the playoffs as well. I mean, Steven, what else do you look at this NFC playoff?
Oh, yeah, and you mentioned Emeka Egbuka. He has kind of seemed like that JSN piece for the Buccaneers, in my opinion. They have been ravaged by injuries, and it kind of sucks because looking at Baker Mayfield, I think he's been playing at an MVP level throughout the season, but the Bucs just repeatedly losing guys. The Packers are an interesting one. They fell down to 7. They've had some performances this year where they look like they could win the AFC North and be a great contender, and then they've had some games where they just feel a little bit flat. I think last night was one of them. They just really weren't able to get going the way you'd expect. The Eagles, I think, kind of had some of that same issues, but they've been turning it around recently. There's a lot to look at here, and then I want to talk about the Rams a little bit too. They're at 5 right now, but they've been very impressive. Matthew Stafford, I think, another player in that MVP conversation. Mauricio, what have you seen from LA?
I mean, from LA with Stafford and the addition to Devontae Adams, that took him to that another step. Because, I mean, Devontae Adams almost pushing, 30 at this point, but he's still able to put on these numbers and this performance. Stafford right now, 25 touchdowns with only 2 interceptions on the season. Those are MVP caliber stats right now with almost 2,500 passing yards. But we can't overlook New England, man. New England with Drake May, second year, already looks like a veteran. And I mean, 19 touchdowns with 5 interceptions, I mean, on the season is kind of lackluster, but he has a 71% completion rate, which is second among the league. I mean, right behind Goff. I mean, Jenna, what are you looking at this MVP race?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think, Jonathan Taylor I think he should win just with 10 games. I think that should be enough. I think that these, speak for themselves. But if he stays healthy and keeps going and breaks Adrian Peterson's record, and Adrian Peterson won the MVP back in the 2010s, and if he does surpass that, I think that's the best a running back can do, because they have been biased towards all the QBs. So that's all he has to do.
Yeah.
Score more touchdowns.
Oh yeah, it's going to be exciting, and still a long season ahead. We'll be talking about it, but we're going to move over and talk some UNT basketball coming up next.
Are you looking for a fun club with travel opportunities? Dive into the UNT Swim Club. Practicing Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays from 7 to 9 p.m. at the Pole Recreation Center. We accept members at any skill level. For more information, reach out to us at unt.swimclub on Instagram.
Looking to open a free checking or savings account but don't know where to start? Check out DatQ Credit Union right here on campus. Get your Mean Green debit card instantly or apply for a DatQ Visa credit card today. Your school, your card. Plus, make deposits at their 24/7 ATM, checks or cash whenever you need it. Make sure to sign up for DatQ's online banking platform and mobile app for easy access anytime, anywhere. Visit them at www.datq.org to learn more. DatQ, the official financial institution of UNT Athletics.
Welcome back to SportsZone. I'm your host, Steven Lucero, and we're going to talk some UNT basketball. Joining me to talk about it, Nick Volpetti and Cooper Lyday. Guys, it's been a pretty exciting start for UNT. 3-0, and that always looks great, but we had a pretty impressive performance last time out. Before we talk about it, though, Nick, 3-0, obviously some easy schools at the beginning, but I think a really important performance last time out. What have you seen from UNT so far?
I think it's been pretty good. I think there's been some up and downs. Like I think in the first half, as you mentioned, in those easy games, it wasn't quite as good.
Yes.
They didn't have a 10-point lead at the end of either of those first halves. But in the second half of those games, they were a lot better. Like I said, they struggled in the first half, but took care of business in the second. And I think that their performance in the second half carried over to the first half against Loyola. They were up 34-20 at the end of the first half in that game. Struggled a little bit more in the second half, but thankfully we're able to pull it out on that crazy buzzer beater. Might have been a little bit of a travel, but I'm not a Loyola Chicago fan, so I don't care. But yeah, it was a really good performance, and I think UNT deserved to get that win, regardless of the controversy at the end of that game.
Yeah, I have to agree. Like, it's an early season, but with an entirely new team, it's going to be hard. They still need to work on being consistent, but I have noticed some definitely positives regarding their defensive side and from Coach Robinson early in this year, and hopefully they can work on their offensive consistency as well.
Yeah, certainly. It was a great 66-64 win over Loyola Chicago. Dylan Arnett, of course, had the game-winning buzzer beater. Yeah, I saw that too, Nick. We won't talk too much about it. But yeah,
probably good.
maybe a little bit of a carry there. But Will McClendon, a solid game, 12 points for him. And Nick, what did you see overall from this team, and who stuck out to you the most?
I mean, you see it right there, Ja'Shawn Stevenson. He played every single minute in the game, 23 points, 4 rebounds, 7 for 8 from the free throw line, in addition to those stats right there. Dylan Arnett, with the game-winning buzzer beater, I think he shot 13 for 17 from the field this season. He's been so good. Will McClendon has also been so good this season. But I also want to shout out David Terrell. He scored 5 unanswered points at the end of that game. He was really important down the stretch, giving UNT, or taking them from a 3-point deficit to a 2-point lead, which ultimately gave them the opportunity to have that buzzer beater.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Emphasis on Ja'Shawn Stevenson. Excuse me. Yeah, he had an all-around great game, but also got to emphasize Dylan Arnett's game. Yes. All-around game with 3 steals, 2 blocks. It was just an amazing game, while also having that buzzer beater and just pretty solid on the score side as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's those type of hustle stats that really made the difference in this game. Anytime you win by a buzzer beater, it really means that every single moment really mattered. And I think for UNT, you talked about it, Nick, they had kind of gotten off to some slow starts in those first couple games. it was a fast start against Loyola Chicago. The second half, maybe you want a little bit more consistency throughout. But overall, I think this was a very good performance and one that gave me some hope for this team, because looking at those first 2 games, you won them, yes, but there were just some moments throughout that I was like, can we please make a free throw? And I think it's those little things that obviously it's early in the year. This is a brand new team with a brand new coach. But Cooper, how much hope does this game give you and really for their outlook going forward?
Yeah, honestly, from the positives I did see, I have hopefully good expectations for what we can achieve. Like you said, free throw wasn't that good, but the point that they were able to actually get to the free throw multiple times, a lot, which actually helped them win against Loyola. That is also crucial. They just need to work on converting, and they just need to work on just being, like I said earlier, just more consistent all around.
Yeah, Cooper, I think that something that's really important in college basketball is the ability to close out games, and they really show that against Loyola Chicago. You're going to have so many close games as you get into American Conference play later in the year that are going to be close like this, and if they can keep doing this, closing out games when it's close, it's a good sign.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think that this one was just such a good one for this team's chemistry. I think that this is a team that we talked about. It's literally brand new, and I can't emphasize that enough. This roster is completely new from last year, along with new coach Daniel Robinson. So I think it's going to take some time to kind of build that chemistry, but I think that this game really was a big step towards that, because when you get a buzzer beater and you have everyone storming the court like that, jumping on him, Dylan Arnett, excited obviously, I think that these are the type of bonding moments that really matter for this team and really set a tone for the rest of the year. Cooper, how important do you think this win was in this fashion?
It's incredibly important, especially considering that, like you said, it's like basically a whole new team, different transfers everywhere. Some of them Cleveland State, came with Coach Robinson. It's important to build chemistry, especially this early in the season. If they can continue to build chemistry, that helps with, like I mentioned earlier, just consistency and just be able to just trust each other more.
Yeah, certainly. And Nick, what we've seen from these 3 games, what are some of the biggest strengths you've seen from this team and, things that they can continue to build on as they go forward into especially conference play once we get there?
I think just in general, they've had a pretty good defense. They've held opponents to 34% from the field. If you can keep doing that, you're going to win a lot of games. If they're not making baskets, they're not winning, not to state the obvious. They've also shot really good from 3, 41% from 3 so far this season for UNT. In terms of weaknesses, I mean, you mentioned it. Can we make a free throw? Yeah. It was a much better against Loyola. I believe they shot over 80% from the free throw line. So those are the type of performances that UNT is going to keep needing to have throughout the rest of this season, because it was bad in the first 2 games. I was with you, Stephen. I was like, I mean, come on, this has got to change. Or when we play good teams, it's not going to be as good. But thankfully against Loyola, it did change, and hopefully it remains good instead of going back to what it was in the first 2.
Yeah, it was so confusing, especially in that second game against Norfolk State. It just felt like I was seeing them splash threes. They made 9 3-pointers in that game, but yet their free throw percentage was like down. It felt like barely over half, and I'm like, it just felt like if you can make threes, you can make free throws. I'm not trying to oversimplify things, but I believe that this team can do it. I don't know, maybe they need to hit the gym and just keep working on that. But Cooper, in terms of some of these weaknesses, how do you think UNT can kind of attack it and continue to improve over a long season ahead?
Obviously, just develop as players, that's, and just finishing out games, that just, grow as a team. Just be able to just trust each other more and just be able to just be more efficient as they just improve as a player and as a team overall as they continue to get through the season.
Yeah. Sorry, Stephen.
No, go ahead.
I think that, like you said, this is a completely new team.
Yes.
It's a completely new coach, completely new players. It's not something you often see. I don't recall seeing a team in any sport that's just entirely new. Yeah. I remember going through the roster a few months ago, like is there anybody? And there isn't. It's an entirely new team. So it's the kind of thing that it might take a few games and a few weeks to work out some of the kinks. There's been some good and some bad, and hopefully as they get more experience playing together, we're going to see more of the good rather than the bad that we've seen.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great way to put it. And then we have a pretty big game coming up tomorrow against Oregon State. This is, another test for this team. Obviously 3-0, trying to make that 4-0. Cooper, what do you think it's going to take to get that 4th win?
Yeah, it's good. I think it's going to be an interesting challenge, considering Oregon State is pretty new in their own rights, and against North Texas, obviously they're pretty new. And however, I think it's going to be a tough challenge for Oregon State's offense, considering how efficient in these first 3 games UNT's defense has been, considering their high amount of steals per games, high amount of blocks per games from players like Dylan Arnett, forward Reese Robinson. I definitely think it's going to be a challenge for Oregon State's offense, considering also North Texas, we have an offense in a way that can match that offensive firepower.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be a pretty evenly matched game, especially considering UNT's on the road. If you're looking for a player to watch for Oregon State, I think it's Josiah Lake II. He has played every single minute for Oregon State so far in their first 2 games. They had a couple of games where they were favored against UIC and North Dakota State. They ended up winning those by just 1 score. In that first game, though, he had a buzzer beater to beat North Dakota State. So he's a player to watch if you're unfamiliar with Oregon State and you're looking for a player to look out for in that game tomorrow night, then he's the player to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Cooper, anyone you're looking out for in this game, and do you think UNT can take this win?
I think UNT can pull it off, even if they're not favored. I think they can get it with just consistent play and strong play from Jayshon Stevenson to, like I said, match the firepower of Oregon State and Josiah Lake II, and also just strong front court play from players like I mentioned Reese Robinson, Dylan Arnett, especially against Oregon State's size and their front court. It's going to be important. They gotta just be consistent and continue to fire like they did against Loyola.
Yeah, I'm glad you talked about size because that's one thing that is different about this team. UNT, especially if you look at last year's team, really strong, solid team. They made it to the Final Four of the NIT, but you had a small team. Atten Wright, Latrell Giselle, 5'10". I mean, that is not the case with this team. We have 3 starters over 6'7", and it just seems like we've really had players in this year that can be not only forces on the defensive side, but you just have that size. Cooper, how much of a difference do you think that makes?
Yeah, obviously we've seen it so far. It helps like a tremendous amount on the just defensive, just efficiency, just resilience near the basket, like just multiple blocks by multiple players. Like it's just helped us amazingly. Yeah.
How much of a difference do you think that size makes for this team, Nick, and really a team that's looking to emphasize defense with Coach Robinson?
I think it really makes a big difference. It makes them more well-rounded. They had a great season last year, like you said, getting to the Final Four of the NIT. But I think, like I said, it makes them more of a well-rounded team. They can do things in the offense and in the defense that they're going to be really good in the paint. I think so far throughout the season because they have, like you said, 3 players who are over 6'7". So it really is going to be a more well-rounded team, especially on defense this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is going to be obviously a big game against Oregon State. We've seen UNT have success in these early season non-conference matchups in the past. Do you think they can continue that in this game, Nick?
I think so. I think that. I really think we got people doing the 6'7" over there. I didn't mean to say it, but I did. But back to what we're actually talking about here, I think that they're going to beat Oregon State. I think that they have the team to do it. What do you think, Cooper?
Yeah, I definitely think if they continue to play like they had so far these first 3 games, and just even though they were kind of easier games other than Loyola, I think they just continue to play and just the chemistry and momentum, I think they can.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an exciting matchup, and I'm excited for UNT, throughout this season. Obviously, long time ahead, but I think that, I saw some flashes in those first couple games, but there were some things that just scared me. I think that last game really gave me some hope going forward, and I just feel like this is a team that has a long way to go. It's brand new. We talked about it over and over again, and I think as they continue to build, it's really going to be exciting to watch. But we're going to move on in just a moment, and we're going to talk some UFC as it returns to Madison Square Garden this Saturday.
There's no harm in wanting to have fun while in college, but it's easy to lose track of how much you've had. Apps like Drink Control and Alkadroid can help keep track of your consumption and blood alcohol levels. If you or someone else does drink too much, the signs of alcohol poisoning are as follows: pale skin, vomiting, confusion, low body temperatures, irregular breathing, blacking out, and is hard to wake up or cannot be woken up.
Dude, are you okay? Hey, what's wrong? Wake up.
It's an exciting time of year, but it's important to be responsible. If you suspect someone is suffering from alcohol poisoning, get help immediately. You will not get in trouble for seeking help if you are underage. For more info and resources, go to UNT's Division of Student Affairs.
Hey Alex, this guy on the internet says he wants to give me money.
That sounds suspicious.
What do you mean?
Typically, strangers who promise you money on the internet have their own best interest in mind. They often use bounce checks, which will disappear shortly after depositing, but not before they've asked for some money in return.
So he doesn't really want to spoil me?
No.
Well, then what should I do?
The best way to handle it is to block and report the suspicious message, or even consult local law enforcement if you've already fallen victim.
So I guess we aren't going to Key West for spring break.
No.
Welcome back to SportsZone. I'm your host, Steven Lucero, and we're going to talk some UFC 322. The UFC returns to Madison Square Garden in a highly anticipated matchup this weekend. Joining me to talk about it, Zeke Rios and Nash Lowry. Guys, we're back, and it's going to be exciting. Obviously, anytime we have one of these cards, it's always going to be an exciting one. But this one, Jack Della Maddalena and Islam Makhachev. Zeke, what are you looking to see from this?
Man, okay, this is a very rare occasion. Yep. We don't get the best of the best fighting each other.
You do not. You don't get this like flat out. You do not get this UFC 322 main event without some significant divisional parameters, and the timeline up to this has been just absolutely crazy, really, Zeke?
Yeah, I mean, you got a lot of people saying that Islam is running from Topuria, and in my opinion, he's not. He's going up a division to fight someone who's bigger and is similar to Topuria. Obviously, he doesn't have the star power and stuff like that, but very great boxing, very crafty wrestling. I think this is a really big deal if Islam can pull this off.
Yeah, and we were talking about it earlier. You're not going to see a decision from this fight with two. I mean, I would say these guys prefer grappling, right? These are two dominant grapplers in their fights, and these two guys are not going to tap. JDM's riding an 18-fight win streak. Islam's riding a 16-fight win streak in the UFC. Or actually 15-fight win streak. He will tie Anderson Silva's 16-fight win streak record in the UFC if he can take the win on Saturday. And we are just not going to see a submission in this fight. But I think it'll stand. I'm interested to see how long they stay on the feet or who's going to have the first takedown attempt. I think Islam's going to have the first takedown attempt.
I definitely think he's going to go for it first. JDM's got that really nice stocky boxer build, and he's definitely going to use all this stuff. He has such a good camp for Islam. If fighting Islam is like fighting Islam and Khabib, and honestly, if you want to break that fighter, you have to go up against them, and you have such a good team in terms of JDM because he has Alexander Volkanovski, who arguably beat Islam. I think he did. Yeah. And then you also have
in that one
Craig Jones, one of the greatest jiu-jitsu masterclass grapplers of all time. So it's honestly looking really good for JDM.
It really is, yeah. And then, but I think with Islam, I really don't think anybody stops him, especially at this. The weight change just does not affect me enough with Islam's move up. He moved away from lightweight because of how stagnant it was, and now he's finally getting the action that he wants. He doesn't get to be double champ, and he does get to be double champ, but it's just not the same holding two belts at the same time. I think he'll get the belt on Saturday, and he'll get the two, and he'll, unite with Khabib, and he'll fulfill Father's plan, probably more than what they even thought. The goal was just for both of them to be champion, not for Islam to be double champion. I'm really pulling for Islam in this one.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, and so JDM, he talked on Sunday during the pre-fight and everything. He said that he's going to break Islam Makhachev. Nash, I know you're not feeling that way. Zeke, do you think this happens, and how much fuel does this add to this fight?
If I had to pick for this fight, I am picking JDM. I really think he can do it.
Serious. You told me that you were pulling for Islam.
It would be nice, but you have to be realistic.
Okay.
JDM is very good, and if you saw what he did to Bilal Muhammad, the way he just outworked him, outmuscled him, he said, "Get off me and taste my right hand," and that's what I think he can do that to Islam. Especially Islam was struggling to gain weight earlier in his camp in preparation for this fight, and that really matters.
That's a good point as well. Think about the cardio. How much, Steven? Think about the cardio. How much that's going to impact this fight. If JDM is able to out cardio somebody like Bilal, who is his whole game plan was taking champions like Leon Edwards to 25-minute fights.
And that's the thing. How deep do you expect this fight to go?
I think it goes all 5 rounds.
Yeah, it's got to go. It's got to go to a decision, especially with so much on the line, with two very, very important win streaks for both of these fighters. It's going to be a lot of feeling each other out because these are two master practitioners, some of the best, literally the best, mixed martial artists in the world, and they're going to wait and time each other out. And we might not see the first big connection till maybe late in the second round.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting, and man, I wish we could talk the whole block on this fight, honestly, but
it deserves it. But
yep, we have a split decision here. I'm going to go Makhachev. I think that
I like that.
Yeah, it's like you said. I think it's going to be a deep fight. It's going to be competitive, but I think it was something too about I'm going to break him by JDM. And I'm like, every time this happens, every time there's this kind of, this is what's going to happen, somehow it just doesn't. And I think that Makachev's going to be hungry. But we got to move on because there's a whole card to talk about. And going into the women's flyweight, Valentina Shevchenko and Weili Zhang. This is going to be an interesting one as well. It's always exciting when you have 2 title bouts in one card. Zeke, what are you looking to see from this fight?
Okay, this is so rare. You don't get to see such an amazing fight, and especially in women's MMA. I mean, women's MMA is a couple of years behind men's MMA, but that's okay. It's like it's like back when Ronda Rousey was fighting Amanda Nunes. It was just something to be seen by people's eyes, and this is that fight, just current era.
It literally is. Yeah, this is going to make a fan out of everybody. This is going to get everybody locked in and engaged to the co-main event, because I've been a fan of Weili since the very beginning, and she is such an electric fighter. Really, I was a fan of her before, but she really got me in at UFC 300. That's really where she wrote me in with her tap out of Yan Xiaonan. And with her striking ability and then her grappling ability as well, with her rear naked choke win over Yan Xiaonan at UFC 300, she's been very inactive since. That was literally my freshman year. That was 2023, the fall of 2023. And now I'm ready to go. I'm ready to see Weili fight again. This is going to have everybody, you and I included, locked in.
Man, I'm excited. It's so rare to see this, like I was saying. And the fact that you're listing all these accolades, all these amazing things, it really matters, because every time Weili fights, it's some sort of drastic improvement. It's truly something to watch. And that's why I'm putting her miles ahead of Valentina, because in her last couple of performances, in terms of Valentina, she has lost a step. It looks like she's kind of slowing down a little bit.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I didn't think that she beat Alexa Grasso too definitively, and it's just showing signs. She did win. You can't fault her for that. Took 5 rounds on Alexa Grasso, completed the trilogy. So I think it's a good job on her, but I think Weili's just moving too different. That's really my take. I'm just looking to see good punch. People want to see good ball, good puck. I'm just looking to see good punch, and this is going to be the best punch of the card. Is Weili versus Shevchenko.
That sounds good to me. So we got to keep moving on because it's a welterweight card, guys. There's a whole lot of stacked matchups. Number 2, Sean Brady. Number 8, Michael Morales. When you have the two, especially with the title bout going on, it's stacked. What are you guys looking to see from this fight?
I think we were talking about it actually before, the movement of welterweight and what happens when a division stands still for so long because of Kamaru Usman being the champion for that long run. Sean Brady was on his come up during this whole entire thing. So was Leon Edwards, who's also fighting on this card. Leon Edwards made his way to the top a little bit quicker. Another name like Gilbert Burns. But they weren't able to get up top. It was just all Kamaru Usman. So now that, since Usman got knocked out by Leon Edwards, the division has had time to move on. And now you're seeing Michael Morales shoot up. You're seeing Sean Brady, who's, catapulted himself by beating Leon Edwards soundly in his last fight. This is going to be one of the best fights. I can't really stress enough how much of a super card this one is, especially for the welterweight division. If you aren't familiar before this, you're going to be familiar now, because Sean Brady and Michael Morales are 2 of the best fighters, not only in welterweight but in the whole entire card.
100%. I really am curious. It's like you were talking about, this is the change of the guard, and this isn't even just for the welterweights. It's for all of the UFC. In the next 5 years, your fan favorites are not going to be here. They're going to be long gone. And it sucks, but this new guard, every time there's going to be a change in the guard, it's going to get better, because this sport is evolving so fast, and I'm so excited to see it.
And zooming in on that one specifically, it's going to be a lot of Morales' reach versus Sean Brady's takedown attempt. That was a 79-72 reach advantage in favor of the number 8 fighter. Look at that just again, 79-72. Of course, Michael Morales riding that 18-0. Sean Brady, only 1 loss. Once again, 2 welterweights that have been steamrolling through their division but weren't able to reach it to the top because of the the stalwart at the top of the division. So now they're moving along and we're going to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked a lot about welterweight. Well, guys, I got one more for you. Number 4, Leon Edwards versus Carlos Pradas. Once again, it just shows the stackedness of this card. It's incredible. Welterweight is really getting its moment in the sun at Madison Square Garden. Zeke, what are you looking to see from this one?
It's the same situation. Yes. New guard versus old guard. And honestly, Leon Edwards is pretty inconsistent. as of late, and he had a very rough performance against Sean Brady last time out. So I think if it just comes down to Carlos Prates, he's going to have himself a beer and a cigarette, and he's going to go down, and he's going to be ready to throw hands.
Yes, we're talking about the movement of the guard, and Gilbert Burns has been the biggest target example exactly of this movement of the guard. He's lost 4 out of his last 5, and that's not even including his loss to Hamzat Shemaev all the way back, who's now the middleweight champion, right? So Gilbert Burns has been the target. Leon Edwards now has to prove that he's not the target, and he proved that by beating Bilal Muhammad, who now has to prove that once again, he doesn't deserve to be in this changing of the guard. But you're seeing the changing of the guard happening now. And Sean Brady forced him into the lower rankings. So with Carlos Prates, he can prove that he's back in it. But once again, Carlos Prates, he's just too good for Leon Edwards, personally.
Yeah, 100%. He's going to put that pressure forward, and he's not going to quit. He's going to be relentless, and that's what it comes down to.
Yep, but Leon Edwards can go 25 minutes somewhat. His cardio's not there as much as Prates.
Yeah, Zeke, who do you think takes this one?
Carlos Prates is going to be a knockout.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, guys, it was incredible, and it's going to be an exciting card this Saturday. I truly cannot wait for this one. But that was our show. It went fast, but it was a pretty stacked day in sports. So thank you all for watching. Make sure to give us a follow on our socials at NTTV Sports. Make sure to tune in to Thursday's Sports Zone later this week. And thank you all, of course, for watching. We'll see you next week on Sports Zone.